in this new KBLA Talk 1580 initiative to promote your business. As a Black-owned small business, you don't want to miss this unique opportunity to gain new customers on KBLA Talk 1580. For more information, contact us today at smb@kbla1580.com. That's smb@kbla1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
And if I share with you my story, would you share your shadow with me? Time to get it.
Put me on top, city on lock, they like when he gon' drop. He done shit the game up when he gon' pop. Yeah, they know the name, but is he gon' stop? Back to back, run up the whole summer. On the road, I'ma take the whole globe from him. We ain't had enough. Speaking down, but they know who coming up. And I'm still on my way. But the top don't look too far for me. Never caught off, not one day. And I'm still on my way. Still on my way. Yeah, I'm just greedy like
KBLA Talk 1580. And pleased to have joining me this morning one of my colleagues here at KBLA Talk 1580. She has her very own show, Fridays, KBLA Talk 1580, but is a political mover and shaker, I'll say. She is the executive director of Black PAC and the affiliated nonpartisan Black Progressive Action Coalition. She's a leader in developing model integrated voter engagement programs to help build vote power over multiple election cycles. Along with the Black progressive leaders from across the country, she founded the Black PAC back in 2016 to develop a sustainable infrastructure for Black political engagement. She oversees their research, their political strategy, coordinating with grassroots community organizations all over the country, state by state, on electoral and issue-based campaigns in Black communities. Adrianne Shropshire, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So much to unpack right now. We constantly hear all the time, even when it's not election, about a Black agenda and the asks. What are our asks for these lawmakers? Should we give them our votes? It seems to have come into play even more in this particular presidential because for some reason there's a group of Black, mostly men, but some women too, who feel that Donald Trump offers more deliverables to Black people than a Kamala Harris presidency.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you make of that?
I think that understanding about what Donald Trump has done for the Black community, and particularly, as from the perspective of some Black men, is the result of a sophisticated and very effective propaganda campaign that has lasted for years at this point, right? People believe that Donald Trump has done things for the Black community because he told them that he did, right? And so when we think about, right? So, when we think about the things that people say that he did, they're literally the talking points from his 2020 campaign, right? And so when we hear people say, he, gave us checks, well, yeah, that's what he said, right? When we hear people say, he saved HBCUs, well, yeah, because that's what he said. None of it true, right? But that was the sort of talking points in his sort of pitch to Black America in 2020. For why people should support him is because he did these things that in his mind he had actually delivered on. And people sort of believed it then, and then he just rebooted it for the 2024 election. And obviously it's been showing up in people's social media feeds for, well over a year. It's now come offline. People are getting, flights, pieces and pieces of mail at their homes, describing these things that he allegedly did for the Black community. He's, his campaign and his surrogates are up on Black radio across the country, sort of repeating this misinformation. And so I think that when we hear people talk about what Donald Trump has done, it's important to understand, right, that they're getting it from someplace, and it isn't necessarily because he delivered on those things, but it's coming from someplace, and people have been inundated with it. And so it's important for us to try and break those things down, right, and help people understand what is grounded in truth, but may not be fully, the truth, and things that are just outright lies.
Well, yeah, and so let's break down a couple of them. The saving HBCUs, that really what happened was they renewed the ongoing funding for HBCUs, correct?
Correct.
So it wasn't that he upped this funding or he did something extra special. He just renewed it and didn't allow it to simply go away.
That's right.
I think he gets a lot of credit for the First Step Act, which he actually did sign, which actually did, release some folks from prison. But again, that's not something that originated with the Trump administration, correct?
That's right. I mean, I think that again, and that's the reason why I said the thing about what is grounded in truth versus but maybe not fully truthful, right? And I think that Trump, he doesn't have to tell a whole story, right? He's not interested in telling a whole story, right? He is interested in sort of duping people, right, the best that he can, into believing that he's responsible for things. And so, some of this stuff is grounded in truth. I mean, obviously, First Step Act is actually, when we think about the years of work that activists have done over time, that's who was responsible for moving that piece. And then obviously the larger issue is that first step means first step. And so there was, I don't believe that there were any steps, that he had intended on delivering on beyond that.
There are no second steps or third steps.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good point. And the Platinum Plan seemed to catch a lot of people's attention, including the great Ice Cube.
Ice Cube.
Yeah, right. But where is it now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there are many things, right, that Trump continues to say, right? He continues to say that he's responsible for the lowest black unemployment. We obviously know that is not true, right? He continues to say that he's done more for the African American community than any president, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln. I mean, just completely outrageous, offensive even rhetoric about, who he is. I mean, I think he literally wants nothing more than for black people to see him as an iconic figure in our history. Like, I honestly think that's part of his kind of, sociopathic, or narcissistic understanding of himself.
The redheaded MLK.
Well, exactly. Or at least, right, his sycophants as MLK. Like, he said the thing about my crowds, right? Yeah. My crowds are bigger. That crowd at the, on the mall was bigger than even Martin Luther King's. He really does have this desire, and I don't know, I really don't want to psychoanalyze the man because I don't need that. But he does have this sense, or there is this sense that he really does want black people to see him as this outside figure, not just in this moment, but literally historically. And that is, that is why so many black people take offense to him, right? As not just the, there's certainly the platforming white supremacists and actually implementing, damaging policy to our community during his administration, certainly around the Project 2025 stuff that we all know will be, the blueprint for how he governs in a second term. But because he has this, and certainly it's narcissism, right? But he has this sense of himself, and not just, who he is to the country or who he thinks he is to dictators around the world, but to particular communities in this country. And I think for the most part, in large part, I guess we can say black folks have rejected that.
Yeah, I think that's right. I hear a lot of people, myself included, bashing Trump, and it's easy to do because he's quite outrageous. But I'm trying to figure out, beyond just bashing him, how do we reach people, particularly these black men and some black women who do think that he is going to do a better job. I've heard this from a lot of formerly incarcerated folks. He'll do a better job for keeping black people out of the prison system, even though he, bumped off, made sure 5 of us were executed on his way out the door. I think they have a sense that somehow he'll do better for us economically. And I know if you're rich like 50 Cent, maybe that's true, but for most black people, it really isn't. And I think this talking point about Kamala Harris locking up black men while she was DA of San Francisco is incredibly effective. Can you address those things?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I would start with just what we're seeing in recent polling, including some of our own, which is that he's actually losing ground on a lot of those key metrics, including, I mean, almost on every issue. When it comes to black folks, when people are asked who will do a better job, right? He is, he loses on every issue, including the economy, which is new, sort of in the broad polling, right? That he's fallen off on people who think that he'll do a better job of handling the economy, and some of that is because economic metrics are just getting better, and so people are actually beginning to feel it. And so I think that there are a set of folks in our community again who have been the targets of misinformation and disinformation. And so I always say we have to start there with that understanding, because I also think that we oftentimes, when we're trying to convince people, right, that they shouldn't support this man, that we do it in a way that doesn't reflect the reality that people have actually been targets of misinformation and propaganda, and that's real. And so we have to have some grace for people, because that's what they've been seeing. But I do think that it's that part of the conversation isn't just tearing down or not. Tearing down is not even the right word. Like giving folks information about what Trump didn't do. It really is about lifting up what Kamala Harris, in fact, has done. And so I think, sort of that argument about that I will say that we have heard less of. So, when Biden was at the top of the ticket, we heard, when we asked folks in focus groups or on the doors about, what they thought about the vice president, that came up a lot. I will say that since she's been at the top of the ticket and over the last month or so, that is a thing that we are hearing less of around the country. So I think that I think that there was a lot of really effective social media pushback around that talking point in particular. Folks on TikTok and, doing reels on Instagram, really effectively breaking that down. No, that's not what happened. Here are the actual numbers. And so I think that it's important that people deliver those actual numbers, right, to people. But I think that there's been some effective pushback around that. And again, the successes of the Biden-Harris campaign are important to also lift up when we talk about, student loan debt, when we talk about, the idea about, Trump being responsible for the lowest black unemployment. That is untrue, and there are actual numbers right now to put out there that shows where our, unemployment is for black folks now, where wages are for black folks right now. And so some of it is just, I think, lifting up what the vice president has done, what she is talking about in terms of the future, whether it's home ownership, all of the things that she's talked about in terms of the opportunity economy. Those things are important to lift up. I think Donald Trump speaks for himself, and I think that it's important to remind people of what he is saying right now, not just on the, what he claims he'll do around the economy, but the really unhinged, dictator-style language that he uses, because I think that black folks know what it means when you say you're going to deploy the military into inner cities. Like, we understand what that means. When he talks about, concentration camps and detention centers, that's not just about undocumented immigrants, and I think black people understand that, right? And so I think that there's language that he is using that is important to lift up in our community, because we know what that looks like, because our grandparents and in some cases, our parents have experienced that reality in America. And we need to remind, when Kamala Harris talks about not going back, Black people should understand very clearly what that looks like.
Talking with Adrianne Shropshire. If you want to hear her whole show, it's from 4 to 6 on Fridays, every Friday on KBLA Talk 1580. Continuing our conversation when we come forward, only right here.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580. Tabitha Smiley's new book, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition. With powerful new contributions from today's leading voices, this 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later today.
Black Women for Wellness and Stand LA are standing up against harmful oil drilling in South Los Angeles. Our Bad Neighbors campaign exposes the serious health risks of drilling in our neighborhoods. You've seen the billboards, posters, and coffee sleeves around South LA. Now join the movement to protect our health, our families, and our future. Visit bwwla.org/no-drilling to learn more and get involved. That's bwwla.org/no-drilling.
King C. Gillette knows you're dedicated to your barbershop routine. But what about after? What's your routine for facial hair to avoid dry skin, itching, and beard rough? Well, the King C. Gillette Beard Oil is a perfect fit for making your beard feel as good as it looks. It softens your facial hair and moisturizes to help prevent itch due to dry skin. Get facial hair that feels as good as it looks. Just trim, wash, and soften. With King C. Gillette.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Break up with stinky clothes.
Rinse it out.
Every now and then I get a little bit tired of the stinks that just will never come out.
Oh, Downy in the rinse straight.
Every now and then I rinse it out. One wash and it delivers. One wash, it smells so clean. Downy Rinse and Refresh, it's a dream.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Fights odor in just one wash. Guaranteed.
You have something special. You have greatness in you. Hello, this is Les Brown. I want you to go to lesbrownpowertour.com. On October the 11th, 12th, and 13th, this weekend, we will be at the Airport Marriott, teaching people the techniques and strategies on how you can begin to live your dream right now. Many people have the ability to do more, but unfortunately, they're trying to open new doors with old keys. We're going to teach you how to monetize your brilliance with one of the speakers. We have a lady who was once a gas station cashier, and she's now a billionaire, and she's going to share her knowledge. I'm going to share with you how to tell your story, how to present yourself, and how you can earn millions of dollars with your wisdom and your experiences. October the 11th, 12th, and 13th, this weekend. Go to lesbrownpowertour.com. It's going to change your life. Spread the word. Go to lesbrownpowertour.com this weekend in LA at the Marriott at the airport. This is your moment. You have something special. You have greatness in you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Talking with my colleague, Adrianne Shropshire. She hosts The Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire, Fridays from 4 to 6 p.m. on KBLA Talk 1580, among her many other pursuits as a political strategist. We were talking earlier, Adrianne, about how we find out who's funding candidates. Specifically, I had a caller asking me about Laura Richardson, who's running for state senate here in California, but some others as well. Leon from Gardena asked me that. And so if I want to figure out who is backing a candidate, how do I follow the money?
Mm-hmm. So, whether it's candidates or organizations, super PAC, even like the one that I run, folks have to file, public filings that say who has supported their campaigns, and you can go to, for federal elections, right, you can go to you can go and look at the FEC filings. You can see everyone that has given money and everyone who they have moved money to for whatever vendors they're using, et cetera. So that's those numbers. If you're running for public office, whether it is at the local or state level, you have to publicly disclose who's supporting the work, and folks can go and find that on whatever the websites are that are responsible for tracking accountability around campaigns.
Yeah, I know TransparencyUSA.org sometimes has stuff. Ballotpedia sometimes has stuff, but is it accurate in the day and time we're in where there's so much what they call dark money? Explain what dark money is and why it can be hard to really track who's supporting someone.
Right. So dark money is, I think we started using that term around the Citizens United decision, which essentially opened the floodgates for corporations in particular to support campaigns and candidates in a way that was, unprecedented. Right. It is the reason why we are in the situation that we're in right now, with all kinds of money flowing through, and and a question around who really chooses our elected officials. Is it us as citizens and voters, or is it the people who have the most money to be able to put up ads that inundate us every day on television and on social media? So that's what people refer to in terms of dark money, because who the actual contributors are can be veiled, right? You see that a lot when we look at on the Republican side, on the GOP side. There are all these C4 organizations, which is essentially just a tax designation with organizations who are taking in money, and you don't know who their contributors are necessarily, unless they're giving money specifically for a specific campaign or for a specific race. Then that would be publicly revealed. But that's really when we talk about dark money, that's really where that starts to come into play. And there are folks who are aggregators, right? People who serve entities, I guess I should say, entities that serve as aggregators, who will sort of bundle money and then contribute it. So you don't necessarily know who the individual givers are. You just know the entity that gave. So that when people refer to dark money, it really is about losing the trail, right? Like what Citizens United did was allow a situation where it's very hard, and in some cases not possible, because it's not required to track all the way back to some sources of money.
Adrianne Shropshire, we only got a few more minutes here with you, but when we talk about the money in these races, I wonder if we as Black people, circling back to where we started, which was a Black agenda, if we need to step up more in terms of the kind of thing you're doing, political action committee, and not just vote with our feet at protests or vote at the ballot box, but start thinking about political contributions to the extent that we are able to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's, we always say to people, when not just around elections, but, elections are a particular, moment in time that requires a lot, right, to sort of get what we want out of it. And we always say to people that you can give in many ways. You can give your time, right? You can give your resource. And so when we think about what it's going to take to move the policy agenda, right, the legislative agenda that we know that's going to be important for our community, we do have to think about how we are investing, right? How are we putting money forward? How are we aggregating dollars? Because I think each of us can be a bundler, right? Each of us can give our money, and we can get 10 or 15 of our friends and family to also give money. But I think that it's important to think about that, not just in terms of elections, again, because I think what we know is that, of course, elections are important, but it is really the day after Election Day that our agenda is going to move. right? When we think about when new legislatures come in, when new executives take office, whether it's governor or mayor or president, that is when the work begins to make sure that the things that we talked about, that we prioritized and the candidates promised us during the election season, that is the moment to weigh in and make sure that those things actually get done. And in that instance, then we also have to be thinking about how are we supporting the organizations that are doing the work to make sure that the agenda items are moving forward. So we certainly want to give during campaigns, but we also want to give to organizations who are doing the good work to hold elected officials accountable to the promises that they made to our communities.
Got a minute here. Adrianne Shropshire, how would you like to spend it?
So I just think that it is so important right now when we think about the election that is upon us. I mean, I keep, saying on my show that, November 5th is the last day of the election. It is not the election. It is the last day of the election. People are voting right now. I know I just got my ballot the other day. We are in the middle of the election. Someone on my show the other day said we're at the finish line. And that is true. We are at the finish line, and it is our job to run through it. So folks need to do what they can to make sure they're participating. Check your registration. If your registration day hasn't passed already, in various states, people need to make a plan to vote. People need to make sure that they're taking their friends and family out to vote, because this is, that we are going to have the most important elections of our lifetime for the foreseeable future. Yeah. And so when people say this is the most important, it is the most important, and so will the next one be. And we just have to remember that we're in a fight here for our democracy and for our communities to survive, and it's going to take a minute before we can get back to solid ground. So do what you can to make sure that you're ready to vote. Know that we are already in the midst of voting in the election, and people are casting their ballots right now.
Adrianne Shropshire, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Taking your phone calls and unpacking national issues after news, traffic, and sports on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Ray Harris, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In New Jersey, the family of a Newark cheerleader who was critically hurt after getting off of a school bus is suing the city school board for $150 million. Chiara Jones, a black senior at Newark Arts High School, was struck and seriously injured after returning from a cheerleading competition. The suit claims the bus operator was negligent. The suit seeks damages related to medical bills, lifetime nursing care, pain, and suffering. The price of everything is going up, even lottery tickets. It will soon cost more to play the Mega Millions lottery game. Starting in April, Mega Millions tickets will cost players $5 each. And that's the latest. I'm Ray Harris on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A highly important game for the Dodgers tonight in San Diego. Game 3 of their divisional round playoff series against the Padres. The intense and emotional series is tied at 1 game apiece. The Padres have all the momentum and home field advantage for the next 2 games. The Dodgers need a wake-up call from Mookie Betts. Betts is 0 for 6 in the first 2 games. He has not had a productive postseason with the Dodgers. Since the NL Championship Series in 2021, Betts is 3 for 44 at the plate. The Dodgers need Betts to turn up if they're going to win this series. The largest attendance for an HBCU football game over the weekend was Florida A&M at Alabama State. A crowd of 33,576 showed up in Montgomery for Florida A&M's 28-13 win. Florida A&M is the highest-ranked HBCU team in this week's Division I AA Top 25 poll. The Rattlers moved up 4 spots to 19th. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA reminds you that when we fight, we win, and we don't black down. LA Community Action Network, or LA CAN, was formed in 1999 when 25 residents of downtown LA came together and acknowledged the problems that existed in their community and made a commitment to do something about those problems, to stand together, organize, and become a force in the community that demands change. Civil rights and preventing the criminalization of poverty are their core projects. In addition, they take on women's rights, the human right to housing, and healthy food access. LA CAN also has projects focused on economic development, civic participation, voter engagement, and community media. While downtown LA remains their home base, with a particular emphasis on the Skid Row community, in 2007 they expanded their housing and healthy food access work into South Central Los Angeles. LA CAN believes that power for low-income people and people of color is achieved through a large, active, and well-informed member base that utilizes a multitude of methods to advance their messages and goals. If you'd like to join the Los Angeles Community Action Network and organize people to fight back against oppression, please visit cangress.org. That's cangress.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I can't wait for golf this weekend, huh, buddy? Time flies. Love you, man. Oh, don't forget your knee brace again. We aren't in college anymore.
Moments together matter, so help protect yourself from RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV, and there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
As a mom, comforting my family is what I do best. Vicks Vapor Stick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks Vapors in an easy-to-apply stick, and it dries fast, so there's no mess. I use it to comfort myself and my family.
Thanks, Mom.
Vicks Vapo Stick, soothing comfort for the whole family. And when you need more comfort for yourself, try Vicks Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks Vapors. Use as directed. Vapo Stick for use ages 4 and up. Vapo Shower Max use for adults only.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
You got a big mouth. Hello, Joe, you're up. Welcome.
We're unapologetically progressive, and we don't black down.
And we always welcome you in 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580, updating you on some things going on around and about the country, and also welcoming your comments and conversation. We've got Walt on the phone from Tennessee. Good morning, Walt.
Hey, Dominique, how are you doing this morning?
Oh, you know, today the struggle is real, but I'm still happy to be here. How are you?
I feel you. I'm super excited. You know, we're going to start early voting here next week here in Tennessee on October 16th. I'm currently candidate running for state senate here, running for office. So the momentum is building, and we're trying to make sure the crescendo peaks over the next 2.5 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. So what inspired you to run? Is this your first time running for office?
It is. It's my first time running. It's actually interesting. It was a combination of timing met opportunity. I've always been politically engaged. You know, from like the age of 8, we're talking about watching Michael Dukakis ride down the street in the tank, you know, with the helmet on, looking kind of silly. But that initially got me engaged in politics. And as I followed along throughout my life and what have you, I've always been kind of a political-centric person in my family or even my friends. Even when I've worked in organizations or whether it be work-related or outside of work, I've kind of been the political outreach person for those different organizations. And so fast forward to this year, I'm originally from outside of Chicago, born and raised. And with the DNC having been in Chicago, I said, yo, it'll be awesome if I could go to the DNC in my hometown area. And so I went to a delegate meeting to run for delegate. Now, I got nominated for delegate, but I also got pitched about running for office because we were trying to fill Democratic candidates. They really know. And so I didn't get nominated for delegate, but I did get the nomination to run for state office. And so I'm running for state office for state senate. And as I went out doing my petitions to get on the ballot, I started realizing my opponent is not liked by like anybody. Now, he's a Republican, and we're in Tennessee, very red district. I would say Tennessee's a very red on paper because we're the lowest voting state in the country. But But when it comes down to it, when talking to people, they don't like him. I'll mention the man's name, Pharaoh Hell. It was like mentioning Voldemort, the man you don't mention. Because people would physically get a reaction when I would mention his name. If you knew him, you don't like him. You don't like him either because you knew him before he got into politics and they say politics changed him, or you don't like him because of the policies that he's enacted while he's been in office.
Right.
Or you don't like him because he doesn't listen to people now that he's been in office. So, yeah, it was like, oh, this is definitely, let's make this happen. And what let me know that I was on the right track was shortly after I got on the ballot, one of the social groups or chat groups that they have for the Republicans and the MAGA Republicans, as we call them in our area, the constitutional Republicans, in their chat, they doxed me, found out that one of the ladies who signed my petition's husband was an elected representative for like city council in one of the cities within my district.
Doxed meaning they put out. Doxed meaning they put out your address or your name or whatever.
That's correct. They put out a screenshot of my petition form, which has your actual address information on there. And they had that saying, how dare a Republican sign a petition to put a Democrat on the ballot?
Wow.
So that shows how the extremes are working with, but also showed the opportunity that was presented. And as I've been out here on the grind since then, and that was like, I want to say late in the game, like March, April time frame, I've made up a lot of ground, been out knocking on doors, been attending events, been talking to people, been pushing my platform, whether it be on social media, a lot of Twitter access, a lot of Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
So is that, I feel like we do need more black men in the space as candidates for anything, especially, ones that are willing to hit the streets like that and do the old-fashioned door-knocking thing. So good luck to you. What do you think is the most important issue facing us this election?
Facing us, I would say, holistically as a country, I would definitely say trying to save our democracy from the theocracy / oligarchy that's trying to take over. But I focus more locally on what's happening here in my state and more specifically within my district. And what's really the focus that's happening right now for me on the ground is, one, education, trying to stop our governor from enacting school vouchers here in the state, and also managing growth. Because Nashville's grown a lot in the last 15 years, and that growth is now spread into collar counties, including my county and my district, and people are mad about that. And my opponent actually wrote the bill that gave developers basically free reign to build where they want, charge market rates for homes and rents, and it's driven up the price of property taxes for everybody, for homeowners and renters alike. So they don't like that, and they've really been vocal about that. So that's what I've been focused on.
Yeah, sounds like a good agenda. I always try to talk about the vouchers because for some reason, this is, I think, one of the areas where black people get caught up in mis and disinformation, because a lot of us want to take our children out of the school that's available to us in our community, and we think that vouchers will give us money to do that because in theory they let you put your kid anywhere and give you money to do so. But the reality is much different, isn't it?
Oh, very much different. And I'm a parent that has 2 young boys, they're 6 and 4, that are on the spectrum. So even though I can afford to send them to private school, they can't go. They won't accept them.
Wow. Yeah, not only that,
that's just one aspect.
Right, because what happens with a voucher program now, not only we end up violating the separation of church and state as we're using taxpayers' money to support Catholic schools or different religious schools, also that people who don't, people who are wealthy are getting subsidies to pull their kids out of public schools, and those public schools end up being abandoned by the most well-off parents who would help to uplift that school in terms of donating and augmenting the school's budget. They pick off the most easy to teach students, and oftentimes what you end up doing is defunding public schools and leaving only the very most challenging and under-resourced students in those institutions.
Exactly. And not only that you defunded that, and also you have to understand too, there might be students who are doing well, performing well in school, but their parents don't have reliable transportation. So they depend on the busing to get them to and from school. I have a rural part. I have a large part of my district is rural. So them trying to go from one part of the county to the school that might be 5 minutes from their house, the next high school or the next elementary school might be a half an hour, 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
They can't afford to put that 2 hours in driving.
And I would point you guys to an article from ProPublica, which really breaks down what happened in Arizona when they experimented with the school voucher program, because it's expensive. Now you have to pay money to people to take their kids to private school. They ended up having a $1.4 billion budget shortfall. Most of that shortfall, which is huge for a state like Arizona, was because of the voucher program. That originally they said it was going to cost about $65 million, but it ended up costing $332 million last year, and it looks like $429 million the next year. So, as you know, as a living model of one of the main Republican talking points, which is school vouchers, the Arizona program has been a complete fail. Walt, I appreciate the call, and good luck to you in your campaign.
Thank you, Dominique. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
Yeah.
Oh, can I shout out my website too for my campaign? If anybody wants to find out more,
sure, go ahead.
You can go to WalterChandlerForSenate.com. So that's Walter Chandler, ChandlerFor Senate.com.
Okay, Walter Chandler, I appreciate the conversation. Look, if you want to call like Walter did, be like Walter, 800-920-1580. 800-920-1580. That is the road into the conversation on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. SMP volunteers work in their community educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an SMP open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit ca-smp-volunteer.org.
I'm Jeff Davis. I believe my daughter should inherit something, but not the role and responsibility of burying me. That's why I have a pre-need burial insurance plan through Harrison Ross Mortuary. Their plan offers me 4 payment options. 1, pay in advance or pay over 3, 5, or 10-year time periods to keep the payments affordable. Contact the professionals today at Harrison Ross Mortuary. We can be reached at area code 310-704-4901. That's 310-704-4901. And ask for me, Jeff Davis. Thank you.
This truck season, think about all the things you can do in a Chevy truck. You can even just with impressive towing, incredible bed and tailgate functionality, and multiple powertrains. Chevy Silverado, the first ever Silverado EV, Colorado and Tahoe have what you need to get things done. When you want to do it all, Chevy's got you. It's Chevy truck season. Get 0% financing on all 2024 Silverado 1500 pickups when you finance with GM Financial. Chevrolet, together let's drive. 0% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $27.78 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 9.3%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 10/31/24.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com.
Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
Moments like making my kids my famous meatballs mean a lot to me. But after being diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, or MBC, which is breast cancer that has spread to other parts of the body, they mean even more. I take Ibrance, palbociclib.
Ibrance 125 milligram tablets with an aromatase inhibitor is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative MBC as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ask your doctor about Ibrance and visit Ibrance.com. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, or chest pain. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Right now, indeed, a rest in peace to Cissy Houston, the Grammy Award-winning gospel singer in her own right, was also the mama of Whitney Houston, made her transition at the age of 91. She sang with Aretha Franklin, she sang with Elvis Presley, and other stars. And of course, she had to see the death of her own daughter, suffering the death of her own daughter. She had Alzheimer's, and she made her transition Monday morning at her home in New Jersey. Donald Glover, the musician and actor, had to cancel the rest of his tour. They're not saying what it is, but apparently he's had to have surgery and is recovering in a hospital in Houston. A Grammy Award winner, and of course the man behind the hit TV show Atlanta. Hurricane Milton looking pretty scary still. It weakened back to a Category 4 from a 5. It's still pretty intense, and it could, we'll see, land a crazy hit on Tampa, which hasn't seen a hurricane like that in about 100 years. Mass evacuations are underway, and they're saying that the center of the storm would come ashore on Wednesday night. Vice President Kamala Harris sat for an interview with 60 Minutes last night. For all the people that have been saying, the vice president, is not doing enough interviews. The vice president is not doing tough interviews. They got something wrong with every single thing she does. She sat down with CBS, which is notoriously for 60 Minutes, one of the most tough interviews you can do. 60 Minutes does not play. They're known for that. And she held her own. I mean, I think she did a pretty good job. They hammered her on the border. They hammered her on several other things. But I think she held her own. The other presidential candidate, Donald Trump, had initially said yes to the 60 Minutes interview, and then he said no. And they noted that at the top of the hour. He claims that he's owed an apology because last time he did 60 Minutes, he stormed off the show partway through because he was angry about the questions being asked. This thing of 60 Minutes interviewing presidential candidates has been going on literally for decades. But this time it will only be Harris. I think they hit her hard, like I said, on Ukraine. Should Ukraine be part of NATO? Which she did not really answer. But I think even the way she didn't answer that, which was, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, right now we're trying to help them overcome the attack by Russia. I think that was actually kind of presidential, the way she did that. So, because you can't tell all your foreign policy strategies, but I think that she had a solid interview, and she'll be on more friendly venues like The View later this week. CBS, top CBS News executive, now admitting that the interview they did with author Ta-Nehisi Coates, quote, did not meet their standards. Mr. Coates was on their morning show, CBS Mornings, to promote his new book about Gaza. And this guy, Tony Dokapel, kind of went off, basically calling Coates a terrorist and saying that the book, quote, delegitimizes the pillars of Israel and could have been written by an extremist, to which Coates mounted a very dignified and effective response. But now, apparently at an all-staff meeting, the executive, Adrianne Shropshire, said they did an internal investigation and determined that that interview was not up to the network's commitment to neutrality. She said they had addressed it internally, no specifics. And apparently some other folks were pushing back, saying, no, he was telling the truth. But it shows you how, what I'm always saying, bias, even within news organizations that claim to be neutral, is real. You can only see the world through your own eyes. The question is, do you have the ability to be fair, even through your own perspective? I think that's the most important thing. I don't think he was fair in this case. The executive also faulted the other two interviewers for sitting there super quietly while this Dokapel dude just went in on Ta-Nehisi Coates. And so I think it's good that they're at least being checked in terms of, okay, are you being fair? We know that you can't be balanced. You can only, you can be balanced, but you can't be completely objective. But Nate Burleson and Gayle King decided to sit there and crickets, not even saying anything. However, this is an important conversation because it goes to media literacy. It goes to what's fair and what's not fair. Let's go to Morris calling us from Inglewood. Good morning, Morris.
Inglewood! Hey, check this out, Dominique. I meant to call you about the Inglewood Unified School District, but I got distracted a little bit. You were talking about CBS. Wasn't it Les Moonves of CBS that said that Donald Trump was terrible for America, but he was great for CBS?
I don't remember that, but it sounds about right. Moonves, who, of course, stepped down following a scandal himself.
Well, that's news to me, but what I shared with you is the gospel. Listen, I got a way of checking the charter schools. I got a way of checking these charter schools. We know that they're adverse to public education. They're trying to close 5 of my schools in Inglewood, one of them being Morningside High School, which is just to the south of the SoFi Stadium. Ain't nobody slow. Here's what we're going to do. The 5 schools that we're closing, if you will have your kid come and register at one of our 5 schools, we will give you $3,000. If you are a white kid, we'll give you $3,500 because we believe in affirmative action. I do believe that we will turn this thing around.
Who's gonna pay this money?
Well, we get $95 a day every time a kid comes to school. So all we're doing is sharing the wealth. Instead of keeping it all for ourselves, we're going to share it with the kids.
Sounds illegal, Morris, bribing kids to go to the school.
No. Okay, hold on. I'm way ahead of you. I am way ahead of you. We are not the only school district that has been incentivizing kids to come to school. We are not that. Other schools are doing it, and we don't have to have them doing it. We can set this up if we want to. We don't have to close these schools, Dominique. We can get as many kids as we want. All we got to do is share the wealth. We're getting $95 a day.
Good luck with that, Morris. Good luck with that.
Well, I appreciate your confidence, but anyway, that's where we're going with this.
I mean,
we're not going to close them schools. We're going to save them.
It's been an issue, not just in Inglewood, where the enrollment in some of our big public schools is just down. You're blaming charter schools. I don't think all charter schools are bad. Charter schools are public schools, and some of them do a very good job. Some of them don't. I think we need more accountability, but
my narrative is not an attack. My narrative is about we're competing. Kids are commodities. Students are commodities. And we're going to have to, I'm sorry, but players used to be commodities. Nobody had a problem with that. Now we're all commodities. So now we got to fight back. This is how we fight back. We incentivize them kids to come to our school district. It can be done. It will be done, Dominique. Believe that.
Okay.
And I appreciate this.
I know you'll let us know about it. So yeah, to your point about Moonves, it was 2018 when he stepped down because he was he was being accused of sexual harassment. sexual assault and abuse. That was one of the prime Me Too moments. Speaking of CBS, and now they're in the middle of layoffs and all kinds of other things. And since you got us on schools, I mean, a follow-up to the conversation about this voucher movement is that in Arizona, they ended up having to cut money for freeways, cut money for repairs and infrastructure, to the water system, and all kinds of other cuts that they had not foreseen. Because what ended up happening is the people who use the voucher system are not public school kids who decide to move. It's wealthy folks who are already paying for their kids' public school that decide to take advantage of this subsidy. So it ended up being a total disaster in Arizona. And it's crazy because a similar legislation has passed in Florida and a couple of other places I can't think of right at this moment. They had to give up the air conditioning upgrades that they were going to do in the state prisons in Arizona, where the temperatures inside those prisons go up to 100 degrees, programs for seniors. All of these programs had to be defunded because of the school voucher system. So just food for thought, right? Happy birthday to the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Today's his big birthday. We are all the way into Libra season. And so happy birthday to all my Libras. Tavis Smiley is up next. He's got an incredible show on tap for you today, as usual. Don't forget, tomorrow I'll be joined by District Attorney George Gascon in the final hour of my show as he fights to keep his job as the LA County District Attorney amid a rather turbulent election. So I think it's not over till it's over. So I'll leave you with the famous quote of Jesse Jackson, which is, "Keep hope alive." I'm Dominique DiPrima. History is now, and we are making it together. Until tomorrow, be safe, be informed. One love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Ray Harris, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In New Jersey, the family of a Newark cheerleader who was critically hurt after getting off of a school bus is suing the city school board for $150 million. Chiara Jones, a black senior at Newark Arts High School, was struck and seriously injured after returning from a cheerleading competition. The suit claims the bus operator was negligent. The suit seeks damages related to medical bills, lifetime nursing care, pain, and suffering. The price of everything is going up, even lottery tickets. It will soon cost more to play the Mega Millions lottery game. Starting in April, Mega Millions tickets will cost players $5 each. And that's the latest. I'm Ray Harris on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A highly important game for the Dodgers tonight in San Diego. Game 3 of their divisional round playoff series against the Padres. The intense and emotional series is tied at 1 game apiece. The Padres have all the momentum and home field advantage for the next 2 games. The Dodgers need a wake-up call from Mookie Betts. Betts is 0 for 6 in the first 2 games. He has not had a productive postseason with the Dodgers. Since the NL Championship Series in 2021, Betts is 3 for 44 at the plate. The Dodgers need Betts to turn up if they're going to win this series. The largest attendance for an HBCU football game over the weekend was Florida A&M at Alabama State. A crowd of 33,576 showed up in Montgomery for Florida A&M's 28-13 win. Florida A&M is the highest-ranked HBCU team in this week's Division I AA Top 25 poll. The Rattlers moved up 4 spots to 19th. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates Tavis Smiley on receiving the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award from President Joseph R. Biden Jr. for a lifelong commitment to using his media and philanthropic platforms to help build a stronger nation. A host of Tavis's family, friends, colleagues, and luminaries, including LA Mayor Karen Bass, joined in the celebration. KBLA Talk 1580 wishes to thank the following partners for their support: the Weingart Foundation, Evitarist Public Opinion Research, Waters Tax Service, LA Councilmember Heather Hutt, the Empowerment Congress, Wallace and Renee Fortuné, the IQ Air Foundation, Dr. Kenneth Arduna and Central Neighborhood Christian Health Clinics, LA County Supervisor Holly Mitchell, LA County Supervisor Janice Hahn, Ambassador Michael A. Lawson, Ambassador Charles R. Stiff, and Attorney John Award. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.